Hello, whiskey folk. Good evening. Welcome to another Thursday vPub. Thanks for joining me again to have a relaxed hangout and cover all things whiskey related. It feels like it's been ages, and it has been ages. It's been almost 3 weeks, and I apologise for having to skip a week. I had to take some time off and recover from the Ralphie stream, right? What a fantastic, fantastic event, and what a fantastic night that was. But just crazy, crazy busy, right? There was, we almost hit, we were just a couple short of 400 people in at peak on that particular night. So it was just dizzyingly fast. And despite the fact it was a 3-hour long live stream, it went by particularly quickly. I absolutely loved it. It was an absolute privilege to sit here with Ralphie, and I don't think I'll forget that night anytime soon. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. But unfortunately, I took a holiday right after that and couldn't fit anything in that week. And last week on Thursday night, I was over in Islay for the Ardnahoe trip. And that was something that I really didn't want to let pass. It was a fantastic opportunity and I jumped at it. So I apologise that it's taken me a wee while. I'll make it up to you on next Thursday night, all things being well. There'll be another vPub so that we can still have our 2 vPubs for the month quota. Yes, and I'll be back here again next week. Nice to see you all in. Wonderful to see so many of you waiting for me to come along and join. Let's give you guys a quick shout out before we cover what I hoped would be our theme for this evening. Bayou Drams or Bayou Drams. Is that Lee? Is that Leanne? Fantastic if it is. Regardless, good to see you in and welcome in. Kilton Moose is in. Great to see you, Scott. Tom Fredrickson saying hello from Berlin. Tom, that looks like a new name. You're very welcome here. Nice to see you in. Chris, the Whiskey Bowman, is in. Good to see you, my friend. Magnus Eriksson, Raster, Carl Van Wallingen, Whiskey Whistle Mark, you star. Good to see you joining again. Scott Mills, Jay Chung is here. Gregor from France as well. Always good to see you, and Gregor. Prestige Liquids. I think I saw a notification come up that you were trying to do a live stream just before I went live. I hope that worked out for you, Andrew. And I hope you're enjoying that there. Colourless Blue Things is in. Good to see you. Whiskey Geek Ben. Wonderful to see you, and Ben. Luna Aaron is in again. Doug Douglas, that looks like another new name, Doug. Welcome in. Skogsmard, good to see you back. Lee Woodrow, good to see you, Lee. Mark Tudor, you star, good to see you. Love Street, Donald Rance, Tim F. Looks like another new name, and he's shouting NASA. Yes, I wondered if Everwind was going to be in tonight. I know that Everwind would like this T-shirt. Razvan is in, good to see you. Anuch that's Anna, I think. Multi-talkie, Dwayne Large. I just got to hang out with Dwayne at Deanston last week. It was a pleasure. Wonderful to see you in, Dwayne. Thanks for joining. Lauren Saw 3, another new name. Rico is in, Rico Denert. Tony Evans, Jimmy Jazz, Ard Baggy, you star. As always, Andy's here. Andy Garbage Muncher. And Service Elafis, that's Andreas over in Norway, I believe. Wonderful to welcome everybody here. It's going to be a much more manageable stream tonight. I can just feel it. And you tend to be able to know what it's going to be like from the chatter and things beforehand and how many people are waiting before you go live. My friend Mark in Canada just sent across a wee virtual dram to say Happy Easter, Roy, and all whiskey friends. Thank you very, very much, Mark. I don't actually have a dram on the go. I'll tell you what I have in front of me now. I actually have 4 drams. I have 4 here, and I'll tell you what this is. This is a little box. Now, I have a lot of samples sent into me. I've got a ton of samples to get through just now. I'm struggling to get through them all. But this was a nice little set that was sent in from Richard Hall. And Richard sent these along and gave me the option of doing a kind of blind taste test with them. And he sent across his letter here. And he's given me the option, and he's got 2 flaps here, and I guess I haven't done it yet, but I guess I can just lift these and maybe get a bit of a, he said, order of preference and a stab in the dark, or then guess with the whiskies named under the first flap, or lift both flaps immediately to reveal. So it's a bit like the Aquavitae blind challenge. So I'm not going to focus on this, but I'm going to kind of sit with these 4 drams, and if I feel like I'll kind of give my opinion on the whiskies, right? Because it's the idea is the whiskies are put on test, not so much the tester. But yeah, if I feel like giving a guess to ABV, age, region, style, brand, whatever it may be, I'll go with that tonight. But I guess you just need to trust me. If these are just flaps, you just need to trust me that I haven't lifted these and had a wee peek already. And trust is a pretty important thing, I think, in general. It means a lot to me. I think the world would work a lot better if we could all genuinely trust each other when it mattered, right? Josh Golladay, you star, he's just said, hey, Aquavite, just hopping in for a moment from work to say hello. Thank you so much, Josh. I really need a wee dram on the side, don't I? If somebody's going to send a virtual dram, at least need to be able to say thank you and slanch it. So let's see. I need to pick one of these. And let's, still sitting here for the last 3 weeks, is the Rosebank that Ralphie left for me. That's quite incredible. That Ralphie video has just clocked 10,000 views. Now, for a Ralphie video, that's not a lot. 10,000 views in a few weeks. That happens to Ralphie quite a lot, I think. But for me, that's quite a thing, 10,000 views in that space of time. But what's really staggering about it is it's a 3-hour long live stream and people are still clicking on it. That is the Ralphie effect. Anyway, Mark Whiskey Whistle, thank you very, very much for your virtual dram. And also my friend Josh, you stars. Thank you. Both peer YouTubers, by the way. Can I just mention that? Thank you both very, very much for your virtual drams. Slancher. And thank you, Ralphie, for leaving the whiskey. So let's just cover a theme as well tonight. You'll notice the thumbnail was a picture of Mark Twain, and the quote that I used next to that was a Mark Twain quote as well. There's an interesting story behind that image there. I made that image in 2014. Now, obviously, that image and that quote's been doing its rounds on the internet for a long, long time now. I'm not saying that that was my idea or anything. But the image and the text next to it was a bit grubby. It didn't look very well. It wasn't nicely laid out. It wasn't, to my eye, easy on the eye. So I made that image back in 2014 and I shared it on my Instagram. It's still on my Instagram now. And I've since seen it pop up here, there, and everywhere. So, you know, somebody's grabbed a hold of it and it's been shared. And it's kind of cool to see that. It's kind of cool to see an image that I made kind of relayed back to me through different media channels. But it's kind of been, I suppose, copied. But I don't care. I don't care that it's been copied. I don't care that it's been used. It's not my quote. It's not my original photo or anything. It's just my artwork. It's just my way of putting it together. But that theme of too much whiskey, I suddenly felt like I'd robbed Ian Buxton, because when I was researching for this, I happened upon an Ian Buxton article that's verbatim what I want to talk about tonight. And it's on the Master of Malt blog site. So it's obviously a very, very public thing. Everybody can read it. Loads and loads of people see it. So clearly I didn't want to copy anything from that. But it's uncannily the same, to the point that he even opens with the Mark Twain quote. And for a moment, I actually had like a frisson, a shock going through me, thinking, Ian Buxton's seen my thumbnail and robbed the topic. But his subject went out before I announced the live stream. So it's either, it's just pure coincidence, or perhaps great minds think alike. But I wouldn't suggest that I'm a great mind, and I certainly wouldn't suggest that I'm anything like as knowledgeable or as great a mind on whiskey as Ian Buxton. But it's quite uncanny, again, that those things came along at the same time. And I guess what I'm asking for there, like this blind challenge that I've just shared with you, I'm asking for a wee bit of trust. That theme I came up with, and I wanted to genuinely talk about it. And there's quite a natural progression there, given the themes of the recent vPubs when we talk about the glass loch and things like that. But obviously my angle with Too Much Whisky was the fact that there is a lot of capacity, a lot of production capacity in whiskey now in general. Obviously, I'm going to focus mostly on the perspective from a Scotch side. But the world over, Japan is trying to catch up desperately. The bourbon boom seems to know no end. Canada is increasing its capacity. Ireland is going absolutely crazy. There are distilleries springing up in England and Europe and all over the globe, everywhere. More and more whiskies being made. And in Scotland, it's going a bit crazy. And I wanted to debate that. And I wanted to debate how people were feeling about it. And I wanted to kind of summarize after the debate and kind of give you my feelings and just let you know where I am on that whole subject. Ian's article, I encourage you to go and read it on Master Malt, the blog. It was a very good article, but where he arrives at the end and where he finishes off, I kind of want to take it one stage further than that. That was the whole point of it from the beginning. So yeah, I'm asking for a little bit of trust there. And the third thing that I'm asking for trust on is my recent video, my most recent video that went out there. I was a wee bit jaded and tired of hearing about all these new distilleries and what they were going to do and how young or how old the whiskey was going to be when it was released and how it was going to be different, what the USP was of all these distilleries. And that comes because you're just hearing about new distilleries all the time, right? However, Ardnahoe is one that had captured my imagination from the start. Obviously, it being an Islay distillery, and it kind of came from behind. We thought that there was going to be at least one or maybe another distillery that would get traction before Ardnahoe, but Ardnahoe came out of nowhere, real commitment put behind it from 2016 through till now. And despite there being delays, there's inevitably delays, and I can imagine that if you're trying to build a distillery on Islay, it's kind of compounded, you know, it's an island and it's a bit more laid back, I guess, over there. I don't know, but they had delays, but they've still been very fast. They've been the fastest distillery to get out there and open up. So I got an invite to go over there when it eventually was going to have its official opening. And I honestly had replied before I'd even fully opened the invitation email. It was just like, yes, absolutely. I was adamant that I was going to make it there, and it wasn't until after I'd accepted the invite that I realized that I was going to have to delay a vPub, one of these live streams. But I was dead excited to go. Moses just sent in a wee super chat, a wee virtual dram, and said, really enjoyed the video from Ardnahoe. Cheers. Moses, thank you so much, my friend. Slant you. And the feedback for it has been massively positive, and I thank you very much. But I am aware that the tone is evangelical. It's me at my most evangelical. I understand that. I'm very enthusiastic. I am like a kid in a sweet shop. I am genuinely excited about it. And it might come across as a wee bit of an infomercial. And I think I want to have the opportunity to, again, just ask for you to trust me. This channel is founded on the concept of whiskey evangelism. When I find myself being pessimistic and skeptical, I'm not comfortable in my own skin. I don't like it. It's something I have to be conscious about. I'm a naive optimist, and I always have been. It's the way I like to be, and I kind of just the way I have to go. When something excites me, when I can bring passion to something, when something fires my imagination, I am driven to share it. I came back from Ardnahoe on Friday, early in the morning last week. And by Monday evening, I had a video ready to go live. It went live to patrons 24 hours before the public got it. And then it went live on Tuesday. That's a pretty fast turnaround for a project like that. And my wife was very indulgent and let me spend hours working on that over the weekend. But I was fired about it. I loved what I had discovered there. I loved seeing that the promise, to a certain extent, could actually be realized and delivered. And that's what I wanted to share in that video. Anyway, let's continue on that theme, and I'll jump in and see what you guys are asking me quickly. Scotch for Dummies is in. Superb to see you guys. I'm going to guess that tonight that's going to be Drew. It'll be Drew. Thanks, Whiskey Freedom. It was a lot of fun. Aqua Vitae never lets us down. Let's see what Whiskey Freedom was saying, which I think Whiskey Freedom is Fraser. Am I right? Is that right, Whiskey Freedom? Except I can't find him. Never mind. We'll come back to it. Skogsmarda saying, Aquaviti, do you believe the first release of Ardnahoe will be significantly more expensive than later releases upon launch around 2025 due to community anticipation, or will bottles be affordable? The inaugural release, if they go along that route, if they don't just go straight to a core range, if they do a kind of batched, marked, commemorative inaugural release, there is absolutely no doubt that it will be a higher price. And that's purely because there's a higher demand for it, and people will want to buy that and keep it sealed and keep it in a cabinet. Much the same as any other distillery doing the same thing. Sometimes it gets a wee bit out of hand, I'll admit. And I think that'll fully happen at Ardnahoe as well. I don't care about that. I didn't buy the inaugural release of Daft Mill. I waited until there was something more affordable and more available from Daft Mill, and I'm glad I did. I got to try the inaugural release. There were some people out there, Whiskey Rover being one of them, who was generous enough to actually open that whiskey up and share it. We also tried it at our whiskey club as well, so it was great to be able to try it. It was lovely, but I'm perfectly happy with the winter and summer releases from Daft Mill. So I wouldn't be going crazy for I come at this from the perspective of a drinker, somebody who enjoys tasting the whiskey and sharing it. So I won't be queuing up for the inaugural release, but I will be excited to see what the regular releases are like. Emery McGillis saying, Aquavita, it's hard to predict the future, but I can say that I have a serious doubt my love for everything whiskey will diminish anytime soon. They have my business as long as the quality is there. Emery, I think you speak from a drinker's perspective. Am I right? But I like your spirit, absolutely. Prestige Liquids, Andrew is saying, Aquavita, that video was great. It reflects your style 100%. Thank you, Andrew. And it's what everyone loves about it. We love sharing your passion. Yeah, I think we all do. I think the reason that I'm connecting at all with anyone is that they feel a similar passion. And it might manifest in a different way. And you might be a bit more cool, calm and collected about it than I am. I am like a kid sometimes about whiskey. But I think you all feel it. You all feel how we can be moved by whiskey, by what it can do, by the variation, by its ability to connect to people and bring us together, and all of those wonderful things. And even if you're not together with someone, even if you're sitting on the sofa on your own, we've all had that sip of whiskey that literally shuts out the world instantly and gives us those little moments, the ones I like to call epiphanies. Era McFall, you star, good to see you on Era, wonderful to have you here. He's saying, Aquavita, there's probably going to be too little casks wood rather than too much whiskey. The industry's already feeling it. Casks and supply chain and everything is at the priority for everyone. It's at the forefront of everybody's mind. And of course, even if you get the casks, because bear in mind, we're fortunate that this boom that we're going through just now is in alignment with a bourbon boom, and thank God for bourbon, right? Because it gives Scotch, you know, my favorite style of Scotch whiskey is from a bourbon cask. We've got that symbiosis happening at the same time. Of course, it might change in the future, who knows, but these booms are happening at the same time. So that casks in the supply chain isn't as bad as you might imagine it could be, but real estate is a big issue as well. Where do we keep all this whiskey that we want to lay down and mature? There are vast expanses of warehousing across Scotland, very anonymous, very, you wouldn't necessarily know it was a whiskey maturation spot as you drive past it, but there are vast warehouses all over Scotland maturing whiskey quietly. And all of these things are a strain. The Whiskey Bowman is saying, Aquavita, did they say what casks they're going to be using predominantly at Ardnahoe? Yes, they've laid down predominantly. You're going to be surprised to hear this. It's predominantly ex-bourbon casks. They assure us that they have sourced the highest of quality of ex-bourbon, but there will be a small proportion of ex-sherry as well. Basically the same formula as you would imagine any of the distilleries doing a similar thing across Scotland. Greg is saying, not to be enthusiastic with such a viewing project would be more suspect of bias, in my opinion. I have no doubt about your commitment. Good job there again, Roy. Greg, thank you so much, because this is what my point I wanted to make about that kind of suggestion that it might have looked a wee bit like an infomercial or almost like a paid gig by the guys over at Ardnahoe. If I had shifted my feeling in any direction, if I had exaggerated it, or if I had kind of pulled it back a little or tried to be a bit more cool about it, and asked kind of trying to find chinks in the armor type questions and prodding questions. I mean, I'm not a journalist. I'm a guy who loves whiskey and wants to kind of, like I say, the naive optimist, right? But I think that would have been just as dishonest. I have to, the only thing I can create, the only thing I can have fun creating, the only thing I can enjoy and continue to do this thing that I'm doing is to just relay what I'm feeling. And I think that has always been there in what I do. And I hope that it always continues. There is an argument, the flora and fauna video, for example, and the recent Ardnahoe video, there is an argument that those videos are fan letter videos. And they unashamedly are. And in the future, I want to reserve the right to make fan letter style videos. Hoyt is sent across a virtual dram as well. You star, Hoyt, good to see you. Great show with Ralphie, 10-year anniversary of the live stream. Epic whiskey moment. It really was. And the feedback on that has been astonishing. I expected that people would get a kick out of it. But people genuinely loved the fact that Ralphie had not only got himself in front of a camera for a live stream to interact with everyone, but he was doing it better than me. He was able to kind of keep his eye on the chat. I was amazed at how many people in the chat he actually recognized. So he does pay attention to his comment feeds quite well. And he seemed to be comfortable and enjoying it. And he was on form. Because of the size of the video and how busy I've been since that live, I haven't watched all of it back. But as I jump in and out to check comments and things, I have been picking up little segments of it. And I think it's, there are things that I can enjoy watching it back that I never got to enjoy sitting next to him. And seeing him, as I said on that night, in full flight was an absolute pleasure. So glad you enjoyed it as well. McCallum Fine and Rare the Doc is saying, you spoke like you were dreaming, extra soft. You talking about the Ardnahoe video. Yeah, you know what? The other thing you need to remember about me as well is that the kind of video thing and the making videos thing is something that I only knew how to do in a very basic way, from a kind of functional marketing way for the day job, right? To actually produce a video and storyboard it and kind of work out how it's going to start, how the middle bit's going to work out, how it's going to end, how these bits edit together, and have I got the footage, and all of that I've had to kind of just learn. And also the technical side of it. So the voiceover thing was way harder than I imagined. Just try and record your own voice as if you were doing a voiceover and then listen back. It's like you're half dead. And also you want to kind of get the quality, not just have a good quality voiceover, but at least try and match it to the content that's in the video, put it in context. So it's a bit, as Scott and Bart would say about their channel, it's a bit learning on the job, and it very much is like that. Scotch for Dummies is saying, I could watch a whole series of Aquaviti Island trips. It has an eye for the stuff and the knowledge to keep interest. Thank you very, very much, Drew. You are a fan and a supporter of that kind of concept, because I know how much work you put into editing and having to put videos together. And I know that you probably have some idea, the sympathy there. Andrew's saying, your passion alone has created this vPub. That's why there is almost 200 people here. Yes, 186 of you, and wonderful to welcome you all. Thank you. Never let your enthusiasm dull. That's right. If you start to sense that I'm tired and a bit fed up and bored with it, I can't imagine it's going to be fun for you either. Skogsmart is saying, would it be a benefit or a detriment for the Scotch industry if distilleries were allowed to age in other types of wood other than oak, or new as well used casks? I was at a tasting recently, fantastic tasting hosted by Mark Watt of Cadenheads. Cadenheads is obviously the company, the same company as Springbank. And they were talking about, in the past and currently and things, that there's kind of acacia wood and chestnut and these different kinds of wood being played around with. And it used to happen in the past as well. It's kind of crazy that we're exclusively oak now, because back in the day, the traditional housing vessels for whiskey would have been whatever was available. We didn't care what kind of wood it was. However, oak's been deemed to be the best, and I think that's borne out as truth, because the word from Mark was that he wasn't really impressed with anything that was going on in any of the other types of wood so far. I don't know how much it would help us to move into different wood, honestly. I would be wary of, I'm quite happy to have things switch up a bit in Scotch whisky. I'm quite happy to have more variation in things, but I would be a wee bit nervous of us damaging something that's pretty damn good, right? Jay is saying, for all being self-taught, that was epic production quality. Thank you so much, Jay. Hoyt is saying, good narration and voiceover is a definite skill. Yeah, I will get better at it as well. Greg Benson is saying, Greg, is that Greg Benson? That's Greg, is it? You star can confirm this is definitely Aquavita's Sunday voice. Well, it is you. So Greg is a guy who, well, he's probably still a member of the Glasgow Whisky Club. I hope he still is. But I used to meet him at the Glasgow Whisky Club until he moved up to the northeast to work for Brewdog and Lone Wolf Distillers up there. Good to welcome you in, Greg. Ebhead is saying, love your passion and how it comes through and your on-location videos. Great stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rolf. You're the next David Attenborough or Morgan Freeman. Morgan Attenborough. Whiskey Freedom Fraser saying, are you heading over to Waterford with Bart and Scott? No, I'm not. See, I think that I've got an invite from Waterford. I'm really excited about that as well. I can't wait to see what they're doing because they are known to be doing things from a very geeky perspective, and I'm excited to hear about all of that. But I'm going to be quite late to the party for the Waterford gig, I think. If Bart and Scott are going there and I go there at the same time, I think that dilutes things for Waterford. I think it takes the attention away, makes it more of a YouTube thing. But I'm very fortunate to be welcoming Bart and Scott here after their trip to Waterford. And interested to hear how they get on out there as well. Bayou Drams is saying, I recently watched your Magic of Islay video and it was fantastic. Well done. Thank you so much. It's doing quite well. It's about 25k views. So people seem to be enjoying that style of video, and I would like to do more, but it's, you know, taking these trips and things is expensive. And also there's a bit of skill there as well, because it's all too easy just to enjoy the trip and enjoy the whiskey and things and forget that you're there with a camera and you're supposed to be filming things and you can't edit nothing. You've got to have footage, right? Where are we? Ardbaggy Andy's saying, leave the different woods to those who experiment in other countries. I kind of have the same feeling right now. Greg is saying, I tried Acacia Wood French whiskey and it was totally awful. It's anecdotal. I don't have any experience of it, but I get the same feedback, Greg. Thomas Elmer is saying, Aquavita, have you had a chance to taste the new Ardbeg bottling? Nope. Ardbeg Drum, I haven't tasted it yet. I'm sure we'll happen across it. It'll be in a bar somewhere, or probably we'll pour it at the Whisky Club or something like that. But I'm sure it's fantastic. I know a lot of people are saying it's a wee bit sweet, but there's a decent feedback about it. It's not one that's really grabbing me. I prefer, if I'm going to have an Ardbeg in the cabinet, it would be the solid 10-year-old. Hoyt is saying, you have a great voice for narration. We're all jealous. Yeah, I wonder how much of that is because of the Scottish thing. And I think if you're not Scottish and you hear Scottish, I think it can sound quite nice. I know there's a lot of Scottish narration and voiceovers used in ads and things like that. But thank you very much for the compliment, Hoyt. Matt Wally's saying, what about the sherry industry? Will there be enough wood from there to satisfy the Scotch industry? Yes, but it won't be for making sherry. It'll be used through, the supply chain will be set up purely to supply the Scotch whisky industry, and it has been that way for a number of years now. We all have to start drinking a lot more sherry. So thinking about tonight's theme, I'd already started working a wee bit, but not particularly hard. It's not like I did a lot of research on anything. It's kind of me just going around scratching my head and thinking. Ian Buxton brought a comment as well in his blog. It was quite interesting as well, where he was basically saying that, you know, it takes 125 sub 100,000 litre a year distilleries just to make one of these big malt distilleries. And he had a great point, and it was very similar to an exercise that I had been working on, where I just, without any huge effort, I just went in and grabbed the new distilleries that I knew of that had opened since 2000, since the turn of the millennium, and that are actually producing whiskey. So, you know, if it's like a Rosebank, or if it's a Port Ellen, or Brora, or a Falkirk distillery, or any one of those that's not there yet, not close to being there yet. I'm not counting this. We don't know what they're going to be doing. We don't know which the capacity is going to be or anything. I'm talking about distilleries that are actually making whiskey now. They don't have to have released whiskey. They don't have to have mature whiskey out there, but they are running spirit. And without trying hard at all, I counted 25 distilleries. It was very, very easy. It's incredible how many. I'll run through the 25 I came up with. Now, this is since 2000, and they have to be making spirit. It's not exhaustive, and I will have missed them. But I counted Wolfburn, Kingsbarns, Ballindalach, Ardnamurchan, Annandale, Inchdairney, Daftmill, Avenjarrick, Strathearn, Edenmill, Glasgow, Harris, Lone Wolf, Arbickie, Dornoch, Torravake, Rassay, Lindores, Clydeside, Nicknean, Borders, Aberargie, Glenwivis, Ardnahoe, and Kilholman. So there you go, 25 distilleries that have started producing since the turn of the century. That's terrifying that so many distilleries can suddenly just appear. Who's going to buy all of this whiskey? But as Ian has made in the point Ian has made in his blog post as well, much in the same way that I did, I was thinking about a different distillery. He mentioned Glenfiddich, because Glenfiddich's moving from 12 million litres a year to 20, but already started, it's very mature. Glenlivet have already made it to a theoretical capacity of 21 million litres, based previously on somewhere around 12 million litres or thereabout. So it was already massive, and now Glenlivet is by far the biggest malt producer in Scotland, 21 million litres. So if you add that to the 20 of Glenfiddich, and then add in the new Macallan at 15, we're already at 56 million litres. I can't even imagine this. These numbers don't really mean anything to me. I can't visualise what that means in terms of whiskey, right? And then the other big ones out there, like Ailsa Bay, Rose Isle, and a bunch of others. Dalmoric is quite a new one as well. They're all, it's 10 million litres. Rose Isle is 12.5 million. Ailsa Bay is 12 million litres. And some of the 25 I just read out to you, Inchdairney is a 2 million litre facility. Borders, again, 2 million litre facility. But let's put this into perspective. Those 25 distilleries I just listed, if I add them all up, they add up to 11 million litres. Not even the size of Glenlivet or Glenfiddich pre-expansion. And that's including Borders and Inchdairney. So we're seeing two things here. A massive expansion in capacity in malt whisky production in general, and also with all the new distilleries opening up, for the most part, huge variation, huge granularity, huge variety. And that has got to be exciting. Now, look at it from the perspective of a drinker. We have fantastic things on the horizon for us. All of these new distilleries are going to be producing new whiskies right, left and centre, and trying to be as innovative, I suppose you could say, as they can be. Use any word you want. They're going to try and really differentiate themselves and try and bring new, good and exciting things. It's because it's going to be a competitive place, right? They're going to need to do the best they can. So the quality, we hope, is going to be there. That's very exciting. If we look at it from the perspective of a drinker, think about the bigger distilleries that's going to be making more and more and more whiskey because they see the future demand. Now, it may be export market, it may be catering for the growth in domestic and closer to home markets, but generally, that's all going to be provided. So this issue that we're seeing just now where we're drawing from depleted stocks and the prices are creeping up and things, hopefully, maybe it's the naive optimist in me, hopefully, we're going to see some easing of that scenario. So again, from a drinker's perspective, it's exciting. Now, from an industry perspective, I can imagine that it's nerve-wracking. All this investment is going to be worrying, especially when you're investing in smaller distilleries and you're not sure if they're going to succeed. I guess if you're an independent bottler and you've already got agreements and supply chain and distribution networks in place, it's going to be easier for you, but some of these guys don't, and that's going to be a huge challenge for them. Then look at it from the perspective of an investor, even a small investor, somebody who's invested in bottles rather than casks. I guess it's going to be nerve-wracking for those guys because we don't know when it's going to saturate, when all these bottles and bottles of whiskey in the glass loch and cupboards everywhere are going to suddenly flood back into the marketplace again, and prices will tumble back down and people will start to lose money on that. I guess it's going to happen at some point. There's an inevitability there. But let's flip it back and look at all of that from a perspective of the drinker again. You and me and the people who like to open these bottles and have the moments with them, share them, whether it's now or some point in the future. There is nothing to worry about in any of this if we're enjoying whiskey. How do you feel about that? Greg is saying, let's see. Oops. It's just jumped down again. Whiskey Quests. Oh, have I missed a super chat that's come in while I was... Yes, I have. I hope I've missed 2, 3, 4. Wow. Okay, let me catch up. That's very rude of me as well. Sorry for the rant and monologue. Graham Young, my friend Graham, fantastic. I went to meet last year. He's saying, Roy, cheers. Hope the Ardnahoe new make was good stuff. I'll tell you about that in a second, because it was good stuff. Thank you for your virtual dram, Graham, and I hope to see you this year. David Patterson, thank you very, very much. He's saying, Roy, thank you for all the time and effort you put into your channel. David, thank you for taking the time to come along and hang out here, because I can tell you that the effort is made very, very easy by the fact that there's engagement there. I really, really look forward to it. But thank you, David. Thank you. Rory Wingett has also bought me a dram and said, great to see you again, Roy. You too, Rory, and thank you for your support inside and outside of these live streams, my friend. Sláinte to you. Whiskey Quests. Antonio Ustar, he's saying, I'll buy all of the whiskey lol. Just want to virtually shake your hand on another well-done video production. I felt like I was there with you. That was the intention, Antonio. I wanted to give people more than just a kind of letterbox view of the place. I wanted to do the best I could. Unfortunately, I didn't get all the footage that I wanted. And fortunately, I reached heavily into the stock footage that was provided by the distillery themselves, the construction footage, the drone footage and things like that, to add a wee bit of richness to it. But I'll get better at that. Antonio's got his own channel, Whiskey Quests, is over on YouTube. He's producing his own content. Just picked up one of his most recent reviews, actually, on Legion. I enjoyed that very much, Antonio. Keep doing what you're doing and keep sharing whiskey. It's a pleasure to have you in here. Thank you for joining. Scotch for Dummies is saying, quit slacking and drink more. That's a good spirit for all of us. Maybe we're just not trying hard enough. I'm all for responsible drinking, but come on. Amy is saying, Ardy says to press like Ardy the Rabbit and Hoppy Easter. Amy, thank you so much. Please allow Amy to bully you into remembering that there's a thumb button. You can choose which thumb to press, of course, yourself. The doc is saying, Scotland may be fine, but the whole world starts distilling like crazy. Several hundreds of new whiskey distilleries in Europe and the US, mostly small ones, though. That's right. It's absolutely right. And, you know, Brazil starts to produce for its domestic market and export. China, we all know about India is already doing that on a huge scale for its domestic market. But at the end of the day, who benefits? When there's huge competition, when there's a lot of people doing the same thing, the quality has to come into it. And it's very, very competitive, so the price point has to be factored in as well. This is none of this is bad news for the drinker. You know, challenge me and tell me where I've got that wrong. Michael Porter is saying, my only concern is if supply outpaces demand. We'll see more mothballing of distilleries. Price drop due to more supply, can't go on forever. Hopefully there's more global demands, like you say. Well, let me give you a wee example. Let's talk about Glenmurray up there in Speyside, okay? Glenmurray are currently sitting about, please treat this as anecdotal, I don't have the figures in front of me. They're currently sitting about 6 million litres or thereabout, and that's after a fairly significant expansion. Now, if Glenmurray and their existing footprint, the way they've got the layout just now, with very limited additional investment, I think, like I said, this is anecdotal, an additional pair of washbacks and an additional still, they can hop up to close to 9 million litres and act very quickly to an increase in demand. And then if that falls off again, they can fall back again to smaller capacity. So I think what's going to happen is hopefully these distilleries will get to themselves in a position that they can be a hell of a lot more flexible in what they produce. Bear in mind that so many distilleries up and down Scotland, there are exceptions of course, are ran with 1 or 2 guys behind a control panel now. It's really quite an automated thing in a lot of these distilleries. Rich Hall is saying, late to the gathering tonight, but domestic duties all done. I'm glad to be amongst like-minded friends once again. Love these Thursday gatherings, aquavit and all. Rich, I've got your 4 drams in front of me. You never heard me introduce that earlier. I haven't given them any time. I've been sipping this wee Rosebank. Let's stick my nose in your 4 drams and see where I go on. I have not looked. Okay, wow. I've not looked to see what you've sent me at all. So I'm asking everyone just to trust me. And of course, I think when I get it all hysterically wrong, as it's inevitable, I think people will trust that. But if I get it right, that's when the suspicion starts happening. The whiskey friend Alan is saying, thank you so much, Alan. He's saying, great show, buddy, and hope to catch up with you. And may you just let me know when you're coming up into town, my friend. We'll try and shake hands and get a wee dram together. So this first one, now you stick it, I've changed the colour on 2 of these so I could match the glasses. I made your kind of magenta pink one red, and I made your purple one green. But the first 2, blue and yellow, match up. And the yellow one is very peaty. I should have had a piece of paper here, actually. So the yellow one is very smoky. And it smells quite young, and it smells quite sweet. I have been sipping whiskies tonight. We had some Spanish visitors over. We had a friend of the family had a birthday, and her mum and dad were over from Spain. And we had some dinner together with them downstairs. And her dad is whiskey curious. Now, he doesn't speak much English. In fact, he doesn't speak a word of English. And my Spanish is really terrible. But we managed to communicate. And isn't it amazing how well we can communicate when we're sharing whiskey together? And we had a couple of smoky whiskies. But this is kind of, on the nose, this is kind of approaching like a wee bit along the lines of Lagavulin 8 style. But maybe not. Maybe just a wee bit lighter than that. I've had another virtual dram in. Toon, my friend Toon, you started saying, good evening, Roy. I'm sorry that I can't be around the last streams because I've been busy with my house being built. Still see it later. Don't worry about it at all, Toon. The great thing about this whiskey in general is there to wrap around and fit around your life when it can. And you don't need to worry about being there. There's no sense of duty, right? And these live streams as well. It's great to be here when they're live, of course, but they're there on the replay, and I appreciate everybody that watches on the replay as always. Whiskey Freedom, Fraser is asking, what would you compare Ardnahoe New Make with? What's the impact of those long line arms? Well, I don't have anything to compare it with. It was good. I have to say the peat was very subdued on the New Make. The peat was, it was only when the glass was getting a wee bit empty. There was peat and smoke on the finish. When the glass was a wee bit empty, it was very smoky in the glass at that point. But at first, the peat took a wee while to reveal itself, if I'm honest. The moment that was very enjoyable and very encouraging. Now, bear in mind, the New Make and the 3-month-old from First Fill Bourbon that we had are selected. They're going to give it. They're giving it to press. They're giving it to people to say, look, taste this. We think you'll like it. It's hand selected, so it's going to be decent, right? So there is you do have to apply a wee bit of kind of rational cynicism, I think, healthy cynicism. But it was lovely. It was really lovely. And if the only dram that we had for the rest of that night would have been some more of that 3-month-old, I think I'd have been quite happy. The New Make that we had was at 68%, 68.8 even, a wee bit higher. And the 3-month-old was measuring coming in at 63.6. It was very encouraging. Now, obviously, the line arms are there for lots of copper contact. These huge line arms run from the stills, right across the kind of raised mezzanine platform. Underneath that is the spirits receiver, but it runs right across and outside the building into the worm tubs. So they're really going for, you know, maximum copper contact there. And they're going for just a kind of non-forced, natural, slow condensation through these really quite significant, robust worm tubs that sit outside there. So it's encouraging. And there was a nice unctuous oiliness and texture, but it's cask strength, new make, and 3-month-old from hopefully a very good barrel. So you would kind of expect that a wee bit, but it was encouraging. And I could see everybody having a quiet moment with that and enjoying it. Skog Smart is saying, what would you like to see from Ardnahoe's core range? I would like to see them do something. I don't mind. When Jim McEwen was involved, Jim was talking about doing various, which is fine. But I would like them, before they start scattergunning all over the place, I would just like them to find their core sweet spot, the whiskey that they can make very, very well, and then play with that a little bit. I'd like to see them at 25 ppm to maybe 35 or 40 tops. Maybe not an Ardbeg, not an Octomore, something a bit more approachable, something a bit more, you know, trying to bring out more fruit and floral and more complexity or more engagement beyond that kind of big peaked hit. That's what I would like to see. And I think that that's what they're trying to do just now. But of course, in the future, they're a decent sized capacity. They've cranked up from 200,000 litres to 600. They've got a theoretical capacity of closer to 1 million. And the bottleneck is the washbacks, isn't it always? So in theory, they could experiment with non-peated styles and things going forward. It's widely talked about. But what we got to try was what they're attempting in a classic style. Everwind has just popped in and said, nice shirt, buddy. Everwind, I mentioned you a wee bit earlier and I said that I thought you would like this shirt. I wore it very much with you in mind. Gregor is saying, Aquavitian experience on having been able to taste new make and how it ends up years later, given perspective on the Ardnahoe new make. Well, it's an interesting thing, and I'm always quoting this guy, but I love quoting him. He's a good guy. There's a guy at our whiskey club called Roddy, and he also works in the Good Spirits Company. You might recognise him. He's a beardy guy with a ponytail. But he's a very, very knowledgeable guy, not just on whiskey, but in spirit in general, and also on wines and champagnes and things. I don't think he would mind me referring to him as a spirits geek, or maybe just a general drinks geek. But he said something very, very interesting when we were sipping a new make once. We were all talking about how lovely, confectionery, sweet and easy to drink this new make was at 60-odd% ABV, and how gentle it was and how soft it was. And he said something very interesting. And he said, well, I have a theory that the best whiskies are made by difficult new makes. And then he went off to he went on to mention a number of new make spirits that he's tried that are not that enjoyable. They're not that easy and approachable. Springbank, Mortlach, Ardbeg, famous brands for making great whiskies, but with not very appealing new make. So we can't really always judge. I take from that and from Roddy's experience there, we can't judge what a whiskey is going to be like just because its new make's delicious, because it's much more than that, as we all very well know. It's got a lot to do with how the wood and the whiskey, the spirit, reacts over time and how much time it's given. Alan is saying, do you think they'll do something like the Cairn work in progress range? I never asked that question. It would have been a good question to ask. But I loved Cairn's approach there. I think we all did. It was kind of that perfect hybrid of keeping the people engaged and up to date with what's happening at that distillery, whereas not coming straight out and just telling and just releasing this is what the whiskey is going to be. They're telling people, look, this is just not ready yet. This is work in progress. And then eventually releasing a 12-year-old. Love Street is saying Aquavita, given Ardnahoe's location, style between Colilla, Bunnahabhain would be appropriate. I think that's a good point, Love Street. I never even thought about that, the geographical area and Northeast Islay. A very cool thing that they're coming up with, actually. You know what I'm very much about? Collaboration. I love collaboration. And those guys up there in the Northeast of Islay have managed to get together with Colilla and Bunnahabhain, and these three distilleries have come together to say, look, if visitors are coming up here, why don't we all get together, put on a tour that will cover the 3 distilleries in the northeast. We'll get a lunch thing set up, and they'll be here for the day, and they'll be looked after by all 3 distilleries and under a collaboration style. That's fantastic. It's an independent in Ardnahoe. It's Distell for Bunnahabhain and Diageo for Kalila getting together, collaborating to promote whiskey. And they will not need to spend any time saying how their whiskey's better than their neighbours, or they're hammering home their USPs, because people visiting 3 distilleries on the same day will feel it and they'll see it, perhaps taste it for themselves. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I would love to see more of that spirit, if you pardon the pun, of collaboration happening in whiskey in general, because whiskey is a very collaborative environment, at least at the production level it is, at the distillery level. Stevie is saying that sounds freaking brilliant, talking about the collaboration, I hope. Whiskey Freedom Fraser is saying, is Jim McEwen still involved, or has he moved on? He's moved on, but I think he's still on their books as a consultant. Don't quote me on that. I think he's still there as a kind of, if they need him. But Jim McEwen's been in, he spent his time at Ardnahoe, he's done what he needed to do. And when you go there, when you go to Ardnahoe and you speak to the team, people were asking me, who's the blender? I said, no, they're not blending, they're making. So, you know, the team that are involved in making that spirit right now are completely fired up. They're absolutely exhausted. They're working 17-hour days, and it's been crazy for months and months. But you can see in their eyes, and you can feel and hear in their voice that they're loving coming to work, and they're really excited that they're eventually able to open their doors and share what they've been doing, because they're genuinely proud about it. The Alchemist is saying, good to see you in, Sevi. Saying Aquaviti, loved the Ardnahoe video, very honest and informative. Thanks, Sevi. Great to see Hunter laying an independent bottler pulling on the aprons and distilling. Do you think these independent bottlers will shake up their old brands to modernise? Older brands to modernise? I don't know. I mean, they're still very much focused on independent bottling. I think having their own distillate is going to help them be able to do that. It's going to secure their future. I think you would have seen Stuart's fairly frank answers to the questions I asked about that, about what drove them to do it. And I think, you know, I'm hopeful that it sounds like the sons, Andrew and Scott, are going to be taking care of Ardnahoe and the distillery. And what's really interesting, I was really blown away by this. The son, Andrew, is a fan of the show. He's been watching this, and he's been watching the videos that I do, and it was him that suggested I get an invite to that opening, because I've never been invited to anything like that before. And obviously he probably had a feeling how keen I would be to go along. And he shook my hand and said, I'm a follower. I watch what you're doing. I like what you're doing. I'm really glad you could be here. It was awesome. Him and his brother Scott, the two of those guys will be looking after Ardnahoe in the direction of that distillery. And Stuart is going to focus on maintaining the independent bottling business for now. That's the way I understand it. So it's not, they are very, very much, you know, compatible. I think that makes sense. I mean, think of Gordon MacPhail, Ben Romack, and the new distillery that they're developing that didn't even count in this calculation. Think of Hebridean and Adrian Symington at Signatory Vintage. Think of Morrison, was it Morrison Mackay at Aberargie? Think of Cadenheads and Springbank. I mean, it just makes sense for that to happen. It seems to be a good model, a sensible model to have. And Hoyt is saying, Roy, is there a story behind the NASA shirt? Yes, there's a story behind it. I was doing the grocery shopping this week, and these were in Tesco, and I liked the look of it, and I grabbed it and put it in the trolley, and nearly walked out of the store with the security tag still intact. So this is a supermarket shirt. I bought it because I liked it, and it's very soft and comfortable to wear. I was actually wearing a gift today. Damn. I was wearing I gave a shirt away, a t-shirt away. Somebody, Bob Scullion at the Whiskey Club, had made a shirt for me that had it's not whiskey until it's shared written with 2 Glen Cairns on it. And he gifted it to me, but he gave me a large. I gave that shirt away when I gave the Ralphie bottle gift away, and I sent it to Chris Moore. Hopefully he's got that now. But then Bob at the Whisky Club brought me a medium and a pale grey, and I've been wearing that all day. I kind of should have kept it on for this tonight, but I went and get freshened up and changed into this shirt as well. So thank you again, Bob, for your kind gesture. Skogsmard is saying, could Ardbeg, Lefroy and Lagavulin do a similar collaboration as an Islay South Coast tour? Took the words right out of my mouth, right? People are doing that themselves anyway, but there's no catering facilities at Lagavulin yet. There's no real food catering facilities at Lefroy, and there's a wonderful cafe, restaurant, the Kiln Cafe at Ardbeg. Doesn't it make perfect sense for them just to collaborate and say, let's give people, you know, South Coast of Islay a tour. Let's get together. Let's, you know, show people how collaborative whiskey production is, regardless that their overlords are completely different companies. Ben Marnick is saying, hi Ben, good to see you. He's saying, has Jim McEwen retired again? Hopefully they filmed it again for a movie. I don't think Jim McEwen is not the character that can stay away too easily, I think. It's very easy, I think, to tempt him out of retirement for Ardnahoe. Everyone is saying, did they say how they arrived at the Ardnahoe name? To me, choosing a name had to be a very hard decision. I think it was very easy because the location that Ardnahoe Distillery is on is Ardnahoe. There's a farm there, Ardnahoe Farm, and you might have seen from the video, everyone, that immediately behind the distillery, like literally a strong 7-iron, you're going to hit their water source. And the water source is a very, very deep, unfathomably deep loch. Apparently nobody knows just how deep it is at its deepest point. We are told that there's a shallow shelf that you can see in the video, but it drops quite deeply, and that's Ardnahoe Loch. That's the water source, and that's where they got their name. Donald Ranson sent through a virtual dram and said, about to hit the subway. Happy Easter, Roy and fellow whiskey folks. Thanks, Roy, for being so passionate. Crack open something special when I catch the replay to toast this awesome community. Donald, thank you very, very much. I'm going to lift up the second of Richard's blind drams and stick my nose in. Wow. Confectionery, sweet confectionery bananas. The foam bananas you get. Sherbet, quite sweet again, but it's not like the sugar sweet that was on this peated one. This is a more kind of a honeyed sweet, maple syrup type sweet. Very bourbon cask. Not strong, quite soft, I think. On the palate, I don't think that's Scotch. The blue one, I don't think is Scotch. Or it might be an independent bottle or a single cask or something. Travis Suders is also, sorry, Travis Soders. He said, Roy, I'm late and will catch on the replay, but I received a special coin in the mail yesterday and it made my day. You are a sir. Thank you very, very much, Travis. I hope it tops something soon. And I'll thank you very, very much for your virtual drama, friend. Thank you, in Slantia. Travis is talking about his evangelist coin. Andrew's saying, how did you feel when making your very first live stream? I was a wee bit nervous, and I still get nervous sometimes. But I would say I was really excited by the fact that that could be a tool for me to share whiskey, for me to do this thing. I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was, and I still feel absolutely that it's a privilege to do it. And I'm very grateful for all you guys turning up. I guess Andrew, you're talking about your live streams as well, that it's, you know, it's going to take a while for you to build up. I think my timing was right because there wasn't a European time zone live stream. And yeah, I think, I don't know when this, about a year and a half ago now, right? 37 people in the first live stream, which I was blown away by at the time, really was. Yeah, so stick at it, Andrew, stick at it. Scotch Comic is in, that's a new name. He's saying hi from Virginia, my first time here. You're very welcome, Scotch Comic. Tell me if it's too early an Easter weekend for you to be drinking a dram. Nice to have you, my friend. Nice to have you in. Ben Marnock is saying, Travis Soders, someone saw my Aquavita coin in Sky at the weekend and wanted to take it off me. No chance, give it back. I've still got coins left. I'm down to less than 100 now. I think I've got about 80 coins left. Mostly, there's a few 300 numbers, and the rest of them are mostly 400 and something. But there are still some coins here. And the Alchemist is saying, talking of coins, have you seen the new London Whisky Club coins designed by Mikey Hay? Very cool. Looking forward to getting mine. I might have seen those already, Sevi. My order's already in. Just talking about London Whisky Club, they've actually got a tasting on Wednesday night coming up on the 24th of April. It looks like they're getting together a bigger crowd. I saw some video footage of their tasting with Ebon from Loch Lomond Malts. Send an email across to londonwhiskeyclub@gmail.com if you'd ever like to go along and join those guys. It looks like a really good vibe that's going on down there, and you can get together with fellow like-minded whiskey folk down in London if you're nearby. Colin Bob has sent a virtual dram. He's saying, having a nip away, up early doors, looking forward to the 18th of May. Colin Bob. Are you coming along then, Colin? Are you coming along to see us on a Saturday night? That would be fantastic if you are. And I'll say thank you very, very much for your virtual dram, my friend. This is me on the third dram from Richard. Again, this is smelling suspiciously not like Scotch. This is like a... Slight acrylic paint note on the nose. On the palate, it translates to being a very sweet, juicy, very juicy, slightly higher ABV. Wow, what is that? What's that? This is quite tasty. I think these two middle ones, I think, not any peat, not any obvious smoke about these two. Obviously, the first one was very peaty. I think either independent bottlings or maybe not Scotch. It's just my from the hip. Skogsmard is asking, when are you releasing the 500 plus coins? I'm not sure, Skogsmard. I think if these sell out, what I've got left there, if they sell out quite quick, I might be tempted to increase the volume last time, but 500 seems to be hitting the sweet spot right now. Batch 3 may not go bigger than 500. I'm holding a waiting list for numbers higher than 500, and if you're interested in me reserving one of those numbers for you, you need to send an email to whisky@aquavita.com and I'll put you on the waiting list. Kreshimir is saying, what is the price of the coins? They're £10. If you send an email again to whisky@aquavita.com, I'm setting up a shop. I've started actively to set up a shop, and if you stay till the end of the stream, I'll share another reason with you why I'm doing that. Because of the admin of running all of this email and shipments and packaging thing is becoming difficult. But it's great fun, and I'm very appreciative of it. But I'm setting up a shop in the future, and this will be easier. But right now, it's through direct email only. Scotch Comic is saying, not too early, having a dram of Ballantyne's 12-year-old. Good for you, my friend. I'm going to stick my nose in the last dram from Richard. Oh, is this peated again? A bit of smoke in there, but much, much less than the first one. Maybe just a wee bit of peat. Is that peat? Could that be a bit of wine cask on there as well? Something a wee bit tannic about it, certainly. Dry fruit, like a dry fruit tea type note. It's going to be quiet. Quite strange on the palate, but very tempted to say that the orange, well, there is red, my dot is red, but on Richard's jar it was a pink. Tastes a wee bit like a wine cask to me. Bobby Purnell, you star, he sent me across the dram saying, a little worried your trip to Islay will result in a shortage of my favourite whiskies. Save some for the rest of us. The way that the capacity, even on Islay, is increasing, Bobby, and Islay is in huge demand just now. I think we're okay. And I think as a community, we're very good at getting our heads together and working out where the value and engagement is, even when our favourites dry up from time to time. But Bobby, thank you. You star my friend out there in Texas. Are you going to make the Whiskey Tribe thing in October this year, Bobby? I am booked. I'm heading over to Texas in October. Cheers, Bobby. Slanchava. Really excited for that. This doesn't taste like Scotch. I think it's wine cask. The wee bit of wine cask thing going on here, or something a wee bit odd about this this one with the red, or as Rich has put it, a magenta dot on it. So I'm going to open this up in a second and see if he's given us significant clues. So he's just taped these flaps, and I have a feeling that if I lift this flap up, it's going to be like quite obvious that oh no, it's actually glued down, I think. So I think it's clear I've not cheated. Oh no, maybe it's not glued down. It's just stiff paper, I think. So if I lift, oh no, it's stuck down. Fantastic. Okay, he's given me, he's told me what they are. So there we go. The first one is Laphroaig 15-year-old. I think that's a no-brainer. 43%. That makes sense. And a Thrusk 15-year-old old malt cask. So that's a Hunter Lane bottling. 50%. All the old malt casks are 50% ABV. So a Thrusk 15-year-old. Wow. Be good if I knew the cask. The Islay Star Colila ? Millennial range 11-year-old at 50%. Islay Star. Well, they're all Scotch because the last one is an SMWS Longmorn, 2 drams in 1 glass. Now, I picked up a higher ABV from this green one, which is his purple one. The juiciness there, spotted the juiciness first time round. It's really, really juicy. I'll go with that being the Longmorn then. So I'm going to say the first one is the Laphroaig, yellow dot. It was yellow on his. The Thrusk 15-year-old old malt cask, I'm going to say is the blue. The Islay Star, I'll say is the magenta, which I put a red dot on. An SMWS Longmorn, 2 drams in 1 glass. So there you go. Let's see. No. I think I got everything wrong. Let's see. Blue, a Thrusk. No, I got that one right. SMWS Longmorn, purple green. I got that one right. Islay Star Colila is the yellow. I said Laphroaig 15 at 43%. Now that's amazing because it's 43 and 50%. See if I'd paused just a second and not been so hasty. It's just obvious now, isn't it? It's obvious now. So there you go. You only need to get 1 wrong, and you've automatically got 2 wrong in these blind lineups because it means that you've got it confused with something else. But there you go. I got the middle 2 right, and I got the 2 Islay ones wrong. Rich, thank you so much for sending these samples. I've tried the Laphroaig 15 before, but it didn't help me here. It's been a long time since I've tried it. The Thrusk is absolutely new to me, as is the Islay Star, and the SMWS Longmorn, again, another new one. But a pleasure for you to send these across. There's only a wee dribble left in each of these. I'm going to top up the glass. And I can finish these as I rattle through the rest of this wee stream together. Bobby Purnell is saying, have to check the dates and make sure it doesn't interfere with Aggie football. If not, I'll be there. Well, it's the 12th of October is the actual date, Bobby, and I don't know how they're going to open it up in terms of a subscription and tickets and things like that. I know it's hugely oversubscribed as an event, or it was last year, and it may be the same again this time around. But I just can't wait to get back out there. That was a fantastic event, especially if the guys like the guys from Kansas, Scotch Test Dummies, maybe Bill from the Whiskey Dictionary, some of the other channels, maybe it's Bourbon Night again, those guys will be able to get back out again. Maybe a couple of others. It'd be really cool. Everyone is saying if any wood was worth a try, I would think maple might be good. Who knows? Absolutely, everyone. Is there any history of Canadian whiskey being matured in maple? Because it's not just about how it interacts in terms of flavour and things. It's got to be something that can be coopered. There's got to be something that once it's coopered can hold liquid in a nice, tight and safe way. Doug Crisop is saying, received a coin in the mail today. I appreciate it. I'm delinquent in sending out a few. There was some orders that came in quite recently. I'll get them sent out over the course of the weekend. I apologise. It's just been crazy busy. Some people think I do this as a full-time job. Some people think this is my job. It's absolutely couldn't be further from the truth. I have a day job. I have a full-time day job and have a busy young family too. But what I'm doing is I'm currently going through a negotiation with my employers. Well, it looks like we've reached an agreement. It's a bit like Brexit. And at the end of this month, I'm going to become self-employed. But I'm becoming self-employed to do what I do as a day job, as a contractor, to try and kind of, because there's a divergence from what my current employer, I think, needs in the future and what I enjoy doing. And it's time to have that discussion and see how we can kind of collaborate going forward. So I'm going to hopefully free up a wee bit more time, which might give me more pockets of time to do this stuff. But I don't do this for a living. This year, this thing will pay for itself because of my fantastic support on Patreon. You guys are awesome. All my patrons are wonderful, wonderful people. And it means that not only can I recover the costs that I'm putting out on whiskies that I'm buying for the channel, but also trips and things. For example, I've managed to book the Texas trip very early in order to get some quite cheap flights, or cheaper flights, let's say. And I'll be able to take that from the Patreon funds, whereas last year when I went to Texas, that was all out of my own pocket, and it was really, really expensive because it was much shorter notice. So that's just a wonderful position to be in. I'm very grateful for that, but I guarantee you, this is not my job. Could be a fun job. So I'm very grateful. I'm very pleased to hear that you received your coin, my friend, and I hope it tops a fine dram soon. Ben is in. Ben Stally saying, Aquaviti, see you in Texas for the October meetup. Just left work and enjoying a pub. Good for you, Ben. Ben was the guy that reached over a busy crowd with a glass of Longmorn 16 for me. What a star. Wonderful. Chris Amir is saying, did a blind tasting for my friends last week based on your blind tasting, and we had a really good time. You know, honestly, it's great fun. As long as there's no ego there, as long as you're open to saying, you know, this whiskey's going to take my trousers down. And it does for me every time. It's great fun. It's great fun. And remember that in the majority of cases, it's the whiskey that's on test, not you. Can I share something with you talking about blind tasting? Look at these. Blue Glen Cairns, made by Glen Cairn. I was very lucky I managed to get an interview with, I want to do a kind of fan style video about Glen Cairn glass. And I love this thing. I love the concept. I don't want to give too much away about the video, but I couldn't help myself, and I reached out to Glen Cairn, and they were happy to do something for me, but I wanted an interview with Raymond Davidson, the guy who came up with this design. He's retired now, but he came out of retirement. He came along to Glen Cairn and to meet up with me and let me ask him some questions about how the whole thing came about. And while I was there doing that interview, I spotted these, and I said, that's not real. Is that like a special edition? I said, no, we've already sold out of our first batch. The second batch is coming through. So I bought and paid for a box of 6 of these blue Glen Cairns for blind tasting in the future. Now, there's 2 ways to blind taste, right? There's to blind taste to test the whiskey, and there's blind taste to test the reviewer or the appreciator, or whatever you want to call it, you know? So when you're asked to guess a whiskey, then there's certain things that you should follow. Like, it should be a classic representation of its style. It should be something that's a reasonable, something that you could theoretically narrow down or kind of work out what it is. But we know how varied whiskey is, and that's often a ridiculous notion. But what's really cool about a blue glass is it helps you judge the whiskey, especially when you strip away the appearance there, because you're already tasting things before you've sipped it. When you see a very light or pale whiskey, when you see a very dark whiskey or a very richly coloured whiskey or a red whiskey or something, you start to taste in advance, and the colour fools you a little bit. So these blue Glen Cairns, I think, are really cool. I bought 6 of them. I think they're a wee bit more expensive. I have no idea what the pricing is. I know what I paid for these for a box of 6, but I don't know what the retail is. I bought these direct from Glen Cairn at the factory. They've got a factory outlet there, which is really cool. So they are a wee bit dearer than a regular Glen Cairn, but I wanted to share that with you. It's taken a while for them to do it, but they're doing it now. Very cool. Hoyt is saying, Roy, did Craig Ferguson go to your school? Guessing he was many years ahead of you. Actually, yes. He's a local guy, as is... Who's the other guy who actually did go to the school here? It wasn't my school. I wasn't brought up here. My wife was brought up here. So he went to, I believe, my wife's school. Not Craig Ferguson I'm thinking of. It's the other guy. He'll come to me in a bit. Bobby Purnell is saying, I'll be in college. It's just disappeared. I'll be in College Station that weekend for the A&M versus Alabama football game, but I'll raise a glass in your honour. Enjoy Texas. That's a shame, Bobby. It would have been nice to hook up. No worries, my friend. Being self-employed can be a challenge. You have yourself for a boss. You're right, Hoyt. But if I don't do it now, at this age, I'm going to struggle doing it later, right? Gordon Finney, I think it's Finney, that's how you pronounce your name, Gordon. Best of luck with going self-employed. Thank you very, very much. Mark Slinger is saying, Roy, I had my first Longmorn 16 tonight, gifted to me by the whiskey friend. I loved it. Good for Alan, good for him sharing it out. Really, that if you're loving that on first sample and first approach, you've no idea how amazing a whiskey that becomes as you get to know it, sip by sip. Wonderful dram. Love Street is saying, Roy, the Blue Glen Cairn Capitas are better. Yes, I saw those there as well. I wasn't as interested in them. I like a Capita, I do, and I like playing around and having a wee dram from a Capita, but it can be a wee bit fragile and easy to top over. And if you're clumsy like me, that happens all too often. Just a dram in from my friend Twain. Thank you for your hospitality last Saturday. And the Deanston sample from the 1980s. It was great to tour Deanston. Sister distillery to Bunnahabhain, one of my top 5 single malts. Cheers. Dwayne, thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure to go along there with you. And when I met up with Dwayne, I had a little sample of a Deanston 8-year-old, a bottle originally bought from auction and gifted to me from my cousin Kevin. So it goes back to the early 80s, maybe late 70s, this 8-year-old Deanston, back when Deanston really wasn't known at all, and it was very much a factory for malt, filler malt for blends. It still does a lot of that now, of course, but they're hugely focused on single malt now. But when I turned up at Deanston, I took along some samples for the guys at Deanston because they've got one on display in a glass cabinet, one of these bottles, but they obviously never tried it. So I took across a couple of samples for them. Dwayne, it was an absolute pleasure to join you there, and I'll raise this wee Lefroy 15, which I know is one of your favourites, and say slant you, my friend. Kashmir is saying, no ego's just pure fun. That's the only way it can be. And I have to admit that the Woodford Reserve Bourbon wasn't everyone's top 3 out of 5. See, it's that big, nice, sweet profile that bourbon can have. And when you're blind tasting, you're open-minded. You're not going, oh, bourbon, if you're a Scotch fan I'm talking about, can be really good fun. So anyway, what do we think about the capacity issue? I just want to tidy that up and tuck it away. I think that, yes, if you want to be a healthy cynic, if you want to be a pessimist, if you want to be wary of what's happening in whiskey, you can look at it and say, do we never learn from history? Is this going to be another bust on the back of this boom? And it's inevitable that it's going to move in some way and it's going to change. Stuart Lang's feedback was quite interesting. He didn't talk about there not being enough whiskey. He talked about, there being too much whiskey. He talked about we would be doing whiskey a disservice if we didn't step in and make the capacity where there was clearly demand. And he makes a good point in that. He talked about how it's not about the amount of whiskey there is, but it's the fact that we haven't scratched the surface of some of the markets in the world, and I used China just as an example there. I would say that from my perspective, as a naive optimist, you might say, it doesn't matter if we're enjoying buying and opening and drinking and sharing whiskey. We can be almost ambivalent. Sure, we don't want to see distillery closures. We don't want to see things contracting, and we don't want to see downturns and massive, changes necessarily. But we would like it to be kept in check. And as drinkers, I think we're not really that exposed. So it's almost a wee bit like the original Mark Twain quote is really quite a cool thing. When he talks about too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough. And I think that regardless of what happens going forward in the future, I think that kind of rings true a little. What say you? Ben Marnock is saying he loved being self-employed, made me a much better worker and a much more disciplined person. Go for it. Well, I've been working from home for 25 years. And I think I've had to learn how to do things a wee bit differently. I think I would struggle to go back into an office environment now. So it might be things are kind of more of the same, but just different subject matter. Like you're saying, running my own consulting company was worth the experience. Most of the people I've spoken to that are self-employed say that they wouldn't change it. We can't find a rare saying any chance to visit the Glen Cairn outlet store. Well, being in Glasgow in May. All you need is somebody with a car. I mean, it's a 25-minute drive from the centre, I would say, half an hour drive. It's out in East Kilbride, which is one of the outlying towns. But it's absolutely possible. There's public transport out to get to East Kilbride, Doc. You could do it. You could do it, my friend. Mark Slinger saying, Roy, a lot of distilleries are producing New Mix Spirit to ship to India. If they've got the capacity, and if they can make money doing that, then good luck to them. Hoyt is saying Twain was a wise man. He was. Now, I worked out recently, actually, when I was setting up this stream, and I was kind of setting up the live and writing out the description things for it, I discovered that Mark Twain isn't actually his name, that's his nom de plume or his pseudonym or whatever you want to call it. But I've forgotten what his real name actually is, and it's nothing like what you would imagine, as is typical with these things. Michael Porter is saying, I'm a work from homer as well. I love it. I work for a company, but still, I really like being at home, especially when I can get my son off the school bus each day. That's a huge driver for it, Michael, and you've hit the nail on the head for me. For the most part, not exclusively, but I have really enjoyed being able to take the kids to school and pick them up again when the bell goes. 3 kids coming out of primary school. It's good fun. Emily McGill is saying it is going to be a good thing regardless, I feel. New distilleries will take some pressure off others that are struggling to meet demand. Springbank is an example. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that fully. And there's more variation out there. I mean, Daftmill's a great example. My Daftmill is almost gone. I've got this much left in that bottle. Yes, it's expensive. It's in demand. It's about £100 a bottle, but the auction prices aren't going crazy. And the great thing about Daftmill is I feel strongly that it's being bought and enjoyed. It's being picked up by drinkers. And it's wonderful whiskey. Daftmill were in a very lucky position that they could wait 12 years before they brought it out. I understand that not all distilleries are going to be able to have that financial patience, but it just goes to show you that it's possible. Chris is saying, as I mentioned earlier, I worry about how much barley will be required to cover the new capacity and the quality of that. Yeah, I know that's another thing. It's to do with supply chain, but I'm not going to worry about that because the feeling I get, if we can continue to produce at the capacity that we're producing this year based on last year's disastrous harvest, we're going to be doing okay. Now, of course, if we start to insist that it's got to be local barley or Scottish barley or barley from somebody's back garden only, then I know that might be difficult. But under Scotch whisky legislation, barley can be sourced by anywhere appropriate. We in the past, I know we've sourced lots and lots of barley from England. Lots of barley is coming into Scotland from England and beyond Europe as well. Yeah, so let's see. Okay. I don't have an administrator tonight, but I'm still going to try. Sorry, not an administrator, a moderator tonight, but I'm still going to try and share a quiz with you. I have prepared a quiz. There's still a lot of you in tonight, and the ones that want to stay to the quiz at the end, I can encourage you to do that. It's a bit of fun. It's multiple choice as always. The questions tonight, I'm not very sure. I can never tell. The ones that I think are easy, I get feedback to tell me that it's murder and it's difficult. The ones that I think are difficult, some people do really, really well at. But the quiz is almost always there for you to enjoy. Anything else I've got to talk about? There's always lots to talk about. There's always things that I forget. But I think we're in good shape tonight. I'm either getting better at this or I'm speaking faster. It's at 10 past 11. So that's about the right time to get the quiz started. Skogsmarda saying, Aquaviti, I started out drinking smoky Islas. Now everything else smells and tastes soft, even in isolation. How do I transition to other scotches? You know, I went through a huge phase where I couldn't get off Islay. Smoky whiskey was where it was. It was about 2011 to 2012, 2013, maybe longer than that actually. And everything else in the cabinet was dull. All the Speysiders and Highlanders and everything were just dull. And then I don't know what happened. I don't know. Usually when I'm sharing whiskey, I try and give everybody a gamut and give them a spectrum of all the whiskies and all the different flavour profiles. And through doing that, eventually I just came back into the fold of other things. And in fact, I find it quite cyclic. And as you come away from Islay and you go back to the lighter stuff, you're tasting the lighter stuff in a different way. You're starting to pick up more nuances and more subtleties in the whiskey, and you start to get excited that you might actually be appreciating things a wee bit more. But I don't know what to say to you, Skogsmarden, other than it will come back. But don't force it. Don't push it. If you're not having that much more enjoyment moving away from it, just stay on Islay, stay with the peaty stuff until an epiphany comes along. You'll be out somewhere, it'll be after a meal, you'll be in the mood for a whiskey and they won't have any Islas or any peaty things, and you'll order what they've got and you'll sit down and you'll be halfway through the glass and the light will just come on and that'll be enough. A moment like that, a friend, something, some maybe higher strength, some cast strength stuff, something with a bit more engagement, something you've not tried before, world whiskies, whatever it may be. But if you're enjoying Islay, just stay on Islay. Ben is saying, will be fascinating to see which of the new wave of smaller distilleries get the acclaim and which will be regarded run-of-the-mill and struggle. I still think fabulous location is crucial. Ralphie touched on a really great point about that, and he mentioned that we have to remember that in a lot of these new distilleries that are starting up, you know, it's not just about, you know, supply chain and things that we've been talking about. They have to staff it, and they have to find skilled hands that can actually make good whiskey. And then when the new whiskey has been looked after and taken care of, when it comes to actually bottling it, vatting it, marrying it together, blending it, and putting out a good product there, it all takes significant degrees of experience and skill, and that's going to become in huge demand as well. So you make a very good point. Greg is saying, on the barley question, do you think that the rise in demand will lead to maltsters leaning towards higher yielding barley varieties? I don't know, Greg. I get the impression that you're likely to have a much more insight on that than I do, being that I believe you're still a distiller. Greg, honestly, I think that they have their favourites right now. The barley strains are very much the barley strains that are providing the best whiskey at the highest yield. And there are lots of things going on out there by lots of distillers to experiment with other barley strains, even when they don't give the same yield. We just need to wait and see, I guess. Be interested in your opinion, though. Whiskey Geek Ben is saying, can I be the lucky monkey who manages to type some Shakespeare tonight? Yeah, that's right. If you put enough monkeys in a room and leave them for long enough, they'll eventually write Shakespeare. Is that your attitude to the quiz, Ben? Is that what I'm picking up there? Bobby Parnell is saying, Aquaviti, thank God for bourbon because of the used casks. Exactly, that's the point I made at the head of the stream, and it keeps my bourbon drinking friends away from my scotch. That's right, you should be sharing it, Bobby. You're a bad man. What kind of evangelist are you? Emily McGill is saying, how do you think independent bottlers will be affected by this? They may be able to create some truly unique whiskey with the increased supply. Compass Box is going to have a field day. Independent bottlers have been forced to look at distilling, right? Because, you know, as Stuart Lang quite rightly said in his interview that's on the video, he said, look, the whiskey loch that we once had is now barely a puddle. So it's not just about them making whiskey that they can make their own product and bottle by themselves. If they make the best whiskey that they can, they might end up with a whiskey that's in demand that they can actually trade, and other producers will be interested in trading casks with them, that they'll be able to get cash back and just help them source and keep their independent bottling business going. So I don't know how they'll be affected by this, but in order for them to secure their future, I think a lot of the independent bottlers have been forced to move into distilling. I mentioned that we've got 3 layers of independent bottling in my very inexperienced and perhaps sometimes naive mind, that we've kind of got hobbyists at the bottom that are buying individual casks and bottling things almost piecemeal, right? They don't have a lot of space, they don't have warehousing or anything, they can't sit in a lot of stock, they don't have much depth there, and they're making a living, or they're maybe running it as a hobby, but in a very small scale. And up at the top, we've got independent bottlers who happen to have distilleries too, like Cadenheads or Gordon and MacPhail, or who else did I mention earlier? Signatory Vintage, you know, there's quite a few others as well. But there's suddenly a vacuum in the middle. You know, Duncan Taylor's, Hunter Lang, Douglas Lang, you know, they're all moving, Adelphi, they're all moving towards distilling in order to secure their future. And it's just the dynamics and the way that it is right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how the whole independent bottling thing shakes up. I'd like to see America getting their hands on more. I'm really excited by what the collaborations that the Whiskey Tribe are doing, right? Or the Crowded Barrel Distillery. They've got their independent bottling thing going on in collaboration, where they're bottling other brands right now, which I think is kind of cool. I think, what is it they call it in the States? They call it merchant bottling or something. But I think the more we have of that kind of thing, the better. It's variety for me. It's all about variety. Okay. I know that I've not caught up fully on the comments. Apologies as if I've missed your comments. I inevitably do, but I'm going to start this quiz up as we move into the last few minutes. I'm going to try and go through the quiz quickly tonight and keep it under 2 hours. I know you're having a laugh right now, and I always struggle to do that. But I've been a wee bit better until Ralphie got involved recently. Okay, folks, multiple choice. Keep your own scores. You're only playing against yourself. As soon as I let you see the question, you can start answering either A, B, or C and tell me what you think the answer is. At the halfway point, I'll hopefully remember to shout out and ask you what your scores are and see how we're all doing. And then maybe before the last question gets answered as well. Really enjoying this Laphroaig 15. I think I've got that taste of Islay running through my veins again after last week's trip. Per Christensen is a new star. Per, thank you so much for your recent support as well, Per. He's saying, hi Roy, I'm up for the quiz. I hope I'm going to do better than last time with 5 out of 10. Well, let's see, Per. Even the chimpanzees should score roughly 33%, right? 3 or 4 out of 10. Okay, let's pull up this quiz. Actually, it's damn thing's disconnected. Been having some internet troubles, so let's just make it happen again. Come in and connect. Okay. It was fully my intention to have some of the questions that's in tonight's quiz covered earlier in the stream. Let's see how much I've managed to achieve that. Okay, we're up and running now. Let's go into question number 1. Bobby's asking Ardnahoe, is Ardnahoe offering any full casks for sale? They had a scheme, but it's subscribed fully now. It's sold out. They were selling a 200-litre hogshead, I think, for £7,000, and that's net. So what you do with that when it comes to the point of it being your whiskey and you need to do something with it, sell it back to them, sell it to someone else, bottle it and keep it, don't know, but they've sold out. So it's a moot point. Okay. Question 1. In 1898, the first Scotch distillery to enter English ownership was A. Glen Spey, B. Glen Keith, or C. Glen Adelphi. So over 100 years ago, it was the first time an English company owned a Scotch whisky distillery. The year was 1898. But we want to know what distillery was that. Was it Glen Spey? Was it Glen Keith? Or was it Glen Adelphi? I love the facts that I learn when I put these quizzes together. I just wish that I could, I had the brain to retain the information. Okay, let's pull up the answer now, because I know there's a bit of a delay. So if I pull up the answer now, you should have, I can jump in and see who's got it right. In 1898, the first English ownership of a Scotch distillery was at Glen Spey. Glen Spey it was. So let's see who answered A. Give yourself a point. Yuka Moon, it looks like, or Juka Moon answered A. Well done, you. Oh, I'm looking for other A's. There's not many. The Wonder Mirror, well done to you. It looks like a new name as well, saying A. David Owen said A. John Della Cuisine said A. Not so many, but the Wonder Mirror is very happy, and he's saying whoop. Now, Glen Adelphi and Glen Keith, the clue there was that both of those are kind of post-war. They were dealing with the post-war boom. Those were built in the 50s and I think the 60s. So they came along much later. Glen Spey was the only one that could have been older. So there you go. If you answered A, give yourself a point as we move into question number 2. And it is a capacity question, a little bit in the theme of tonight, I guess. In terms of output capacity, which of these famous Islay brands produce the most? So who's theoretically the biggest in terms of litres per annum? Is it A. Bamor, B. Laphroaig, or C. Lagavulin? So out of those 3 big boys, who do you think produces the most in terms of litres per annum? And of course, we're talking about capacity. It fluctuates year on year, but most distilleries have a quoted capacity figure. Is it A. Bamor, B. Laphroaig, or C. Lagavulin? What do you think the biggest is of those 3? I would like to think I would have got this right. I can tell you that it is, in fact, Laphroaig. Laphroaig is about 3,300,000 litres, 3.3 million. Lagavulin is sitting about 2.5 million, I think. And Bamor somewhere around 2 million litres. So if you answered B for Laphroaig, you're correct. I can tell you that Espen got it correct, Mark Slinger, Malt Mariners, Marku answered A, Meadmule, Richard Hall, Jimmy Jazz, The Alchemist, Michael Johnson, Mose, most of you, Nicholas Polisek, most of you answered B by the looks of it and got that right. So good for you all. That's question 2. Moving on to question 3. I don't know whose quote this is, actually. I should have studied and checked, but I forgot. But Rome was built on 7 hills. Dufton was built on 7 stills. But where is 7 Stills Distillery? Is it A, Cape Town in South Africa, B, British Columbia in Canada, or C, San Francisco in the States? Where is 7 Stills Distillery? Cape Town, A, British Columbia, B, San Francisco, C. Now, I didn't know this. I didn't know it at all. I did a wee bit of reading about it, and I think this distillery, if it helps anyone, makes whiskey from its craft beers. I don't know if that's likely to help anybody. 7 stills. Now it's moving quite fast, but it seems to be a wee bit all over the place. Let me tell you that 7 Stills Distillery is in fact in San Francisco in the States. So if you answered C, you got it right. Let's swoop in and see who's answering C. Now I don't have the nice dotted lines that Jason Whiskey Wise usually puts in for me. So hopefully I'm getting this right. I should probably go backwards. Everyone said C. Sid Martin, Rich Hall, Love Street. Mark, who got it right, but guessing as well. Robert Johnson, that looks like a new name. Welcome in, Robert. I said C. Sanjeev Banger, you always score quite well, I think, Sanjeev. Said C. Sam England, Mark Slinger, Michael Johnson. Lots of people getting that one right. Well done, everybody. 7 Stills is in San Francisco. Question 4. Which Southern Highlands distillery has the unusual configuration of 1 wash still and 2 spirit stills? So the tradition is normally that you've got a wash still and a spirit still, or a wash still taking the first distillation, and then a low wines or spirit still doing the second distillation. But this distillery in the Southern Highlands has 1 wash still and 2 spirit stills, which is pretty unusual. Is it A, Deanston, B, Edredour, or C, Glengoyne? A, Deanston, B, Edredour, or C, Glengoyne. Now, what I will say to you is that sometimes if I look like I'm labouring these quizzes, a lot of people listen to this on the replay in a podcast type style. So that's why I'm kind of verbalising this all the time, because as they're driving along in their car or they're listening to headphones on their commute or whatever it may be, I like the idea that they're able to get involved in a quiz as well. Some people have been asking me about the podcast thing, whether I can do these as a podcast, and the answer is yes, I absolutely can. It's not difficult technically, but it's extra layers of workload, and I'm not sure what the demand would be. But you never know. It's something to think about. And let me tell you that the answer to that is, I'd be surprised if this wasn't hugely C. Glengoyne, of course, has Glengoyne has a single wash still and a pair of spirit stills. So we're looking for the answer C there to give yourself a point. Greg got it right. Of course, Greg, I wouldn't expect anything else, my friend. Chris Banks Wildlife is saying C. Sam England, C. Gordon Finney is saying C. Mead Meal, Love Street, Emily McGill, The Whiskey Dram, Robert Johnson, The Alchemist Sevi, Ard Baggy, Rich Hall, John Della Cuisine, Nicholas Palasek, Michael Johnson, Marku Makinen. I know I always get your name wrong, Marku, I apologise. Malt Mariners, Jens Roger Christofferson, good to see you in, Jens, good to have you here. Vin, No Nonsense Whiskey's joined us, you star, good to see you in, Vin. He's answered C, The Wonder Mirror C, Sid Martin C. Loads of people got that one right. Hey, Vin would have got it right because he's just back from Glengoyne. Let's move into question 5. It's an image. I'm just going to leave that up there like I normally do and ask, this is an artist's impression, an architect's visualization of a distillery that is actually now built now. But this is it as an artist's impression or an architect's drawing. Are we looking at Aberargie in Perthshire? Are we looking at Nicknean in the Highlands? Or are we looking at Ardnahoe on Islay? I'm going to leave it up there in case you need to study that image. What are we looking at? So we can kind of see symmetrical gable-ended buildings there with twin peaks and a central pagoda. Looks like a warehouse off to the right-hand side there. And I can see all the answers coming in. Of course, you've worked out that it is indeed Ardnahoe. It's Ardnahoe. You would have seen quite a few images of that from the video I just put out there. But what's really interesting is that somebody commented on Twitter to say that she was the wife of the architect that designed Ardnahoe. So I went straight back to her and I said, tell me, was it intentional with the peaked gable buildings there? Was that meant to mimic and mirror the Paps of Jura across the Sound of Islay opposite? Because it looks like that. There are three, and there are two symmetrical ones, and then one just off to the side, and it did kind of look, and the Ardnahoe logo kind of does the same thing. And she came back and she said, no, it seems to be just coincidence. So absolutely nearly all of you answered C there and got that absolutely right. So I'll say thank you to you all for perhaps watching the Ardnahoe video and getting to see that building in the video. But perhaps you would have known it anyway. Let's see what your scores are after the halfway point. Skogsmar 2 out of 5. No Nonsense Whiskey 2 out of 5. I think you might be in a wee bit late. Vin, I don't know. Owen 2 out of 5. Let's see who's on a high score. Sam England's on 4 out of 5. Good for you. Steve A, you star. He's on 5 out of 5. Any other 5 out of 5 so far? Anybody else going to challenge Steve A? Doesn't look like it right now. I can't see any other 5 out of 5s. Apologies if I am missing that. Mark Slinger on 4 out of 5 as well. Mark, good score. The Wonder Mirror 4 out of 5. Love Street 4 out of 5. Going to quit now. I know the feeling. Emery McGill, Michael Johnson, and Whiskey Geek Ben also on 4 out of 5. And Ben is admitting monkey guessing, going okay so far. Okay, let's go into the last few questions. Question 6. Which Whiskey Tube channel has a challenge coin featuring the words, and now I don't know how to pronounce this for sure, but I think it's Amicitiam Cupam. There you go. It might be Amicitiam Cupam. But yeah, it says that on the coin anyway. Which challenge coin has that feature? Is it the Whiskey Tribe in Texas? Is it Eric Waite's coin in California? Is it our No Nonsense Whiskey down in the Midlands? A for the Whiskey Tribe, B for Eric Waite, and C for No Nonsense Whiskey. Whose coin has it? Now I have 3 coins here. I've got a Whiskey Tribe coin, I've got a Eric Waite coin, and I've got a No Nonsense Whiskey coin. Just as coincidence would have it. Might have been the inspiration for the question. Let's see how you're getting on with that. Everybody's saying B. Almost everybody's saying B. I can tell you that the Latin quotation on the coin that says Amicitiam Cupam is in fact No Nonsense Whiskey. C. Is that a bit of banana skin for a lot of you? Now, Eric does have a Latin quotation on his coin, but it says Vino Veritas, which I understand to mean there is truth in wine, or there is truth in alcohol, perhaps. I don't know. There is truth in alcohol, or in wine there is truth. Whereas No Nonsense Whiskey's coin says along the side, Amicitiam Cupam, meaning whiskey, friendship, or friendship in whiskey. Very cool. I'm not sure if Finn's got any coins left. He may have some coins left. I think it's the most striking challenge coin we have, just with that kind of black and white design, but that hand is quite cool. I really like it. And I've got my number here. Okay, let's move on to question 7. The only original classic malt. Okay, this is from when the classic malts, the Diageo classic malts were originally launched, so we go back to 1988. May be relevant, I'm not sure. Not to use worm tub condensers was. Now, this is quite amazing. 6 classic malts launched in 1988. 5 out of the 6 had worm tubs employed. Which was the only one that did not use worm tub to condense the spirit? So the alternative there is traditionally a shell and tube condenser, that would go through under pressure. Was it A, Lagavulin 16, B, Dalwhinnie 15, or C, Cragganmore? A, Lagavulin 16, B, Dalwhinnie 15, or C, Cragganmore 12. Now, I just noticed a comment coming in there asking me to look. Steve A said, other side of Eric's Cupam Veritas. You're absolutely right, Steve A. It does say Cupam Veritas on the other side. So, truth in whiskey? Yes, of course, because Eric has whiskey studies. and wine studies. So he says truth and whiskey, truth and wine. Was a bit of a banana skin, that question. Okay, let's see. Wee bit over the place here. Lots of people thinking A. I'm going to tell you that the answer is, in fact, A for Lagavulin 16. A for Lagavulin 16. What's really curious about this is that Diageo are well known for, despite the big companies, especially blending companies, kind of going for efficiency and things like that, worm tubs are a wee bit of a bottleneck at times. But Diageo, in more than half of their distilleries, still maintain worm tubs, at least on one of the stills or the sets of stills. So let's see who answered A for Lagavulin 16. Whiskey obviously saying finally. Looks like he's got one right. Sanjeev guessed C for Cragganmore. Got it wrong, unfortunately, Sanjeev. Let's look for A. GJ, good to see you in GJ. Nice to welcome you here. Mead Mule said A. The Whiskey Dram. Eric McFault, Mark Slinger, Emery McGill, Mark Johnson, Gordon Finney, Thomas Elmer, Kresimir Jelcic, The Alchemist, Jens Roger Christofferson, No Nonsense Whiskey, Mose, Tony Evans, Mark. Lots of you said A for Lagavulin 16. Well done. As we move on to question 8. Legent, and I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm not entirely sure. Legend or Legent from Suntory Beam is what? What is Legent? Fairly new expression. Is it A, a blend of Japanese and US whiskies? Is it B, a collaboration of blenders? Or is it C, wine matured American whiskey? What is Legent from Suntory Beam? I'm going to leave that up there since it might be better to read those potential answers. Is it A, a blend of Japanese and US whiskies, B, a collaboration of blenders, or C, wine matured American whiskey? See what you're saying here. Okay. I think this is a tricky one as well. And I didn't know this, but there was 2 Whiskey Tube reviewers that put out a review on this recently. Antonio at Whiskey Quests put a review out on this. I watched that, I caught that, and I mentioned earlier in the stream that I'd caught it. But also Daniel and Rex from the Whiskey Tribe compared this, or did a review the same time that they reviewed a few American whiskey as well. It came around at the same time. And it is, in fact, a collaboration of blenders. It's a collaboration between Fred Knoll and Shinji Fukuyo. And as I mentioned on the the Whiskey Vault video, you have to be careful how you pronounce that gentleman's surname, right? But it's Shinji Fukuyo and Fred Knoll. Collaboration between those guys. And there is some wine maturation involved, but at its core, it's a blending collaboration. Now, obviously, Suntory Beam are the same company now. So it makes sense for them to do these kind of projects. So if you answered B for that one, give yourself a point as we move into question 9, which is at least 3 distilleries are said to be prized for waxiness in their new make. Clynelish, Duluan, and who else? Waxiness in their new make. Now, this is prized because that element is really significant. It's really a big part of putting together a blend that relies on that component. So it's quite a big deal. So we've got Clynelish, Duluan, and A, Glen Cairn, B, Deanston, C, Old Pulteney. A for Glen Cairn, B for Deanston, and C for Old Pulteney. Who else is considered to have a nice, waxy new make? And I'm an absolute sucker for it in all of these 3 distilleries. Not every expression has it. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if the wood in some of the casks kind of strips it away, or it doesn't. It's not preserved. I don't know if it's to do with batch variation or seasonal distilling or what it is. Not all of them have it, and I'm speaking about all of these 3 distilleries. But when you get it, it's damn Moorish, and it's something I love. I can tell you that the answer I'm looking for is B, Deanston. bought in bulk by blending companies for reasons which include waxiness in its new make. Greg Benson said Deanston B very confidently, and I wouldn't expect anything else out of you, Greg. Well done. Absolutely, it is Deanston. Richard Hall, Thomas Elmer, Love Street, Dinesh B. Good to have you in, Dinesh. I'm not sure if you've been before, but it's good to welcome you here. Era McFault B. Tim O'Leary B. The Whiskey Dram A. Let's see, anybody else down at bottom? Yuka Moon is saying B. He's really confident as well. So well done. So that's us on 9 out of 10. Just about to wrap this live stream up with one more question to go. I'm going to go into question 10 right now. Tell us where you're at. Greg's Whiskey Guy is on 5 out of 9. He's already got a pass mark with a question to go, as has Love Street. GJ's chasing a pass mark. 50% is a pass mark, I guess. Sanjeev is saying you're by again, Whiskey Novice, 4 out of 9, 4 out of 9. Who's on the good scores? What's happened here? John de la Cuisine, 5. ONG, 3 out of 9. So bloody typical. Sorry, Owen. Listen, I'm telling you, I would hate to be on the other side of this quiz live. I have to be honest. It's amazing. I'm constantly finding myself. The more and more I learn about whiskey, it's just almost like I start to understand how little I actually know. Richard Hall is on 7 out of 9. Fantastic. As is Sid Martin. Great score. Greg Benson, 7 out of 9 as well. Whiskey Geek Ben, 8 out of 9 out of so far. Fantastic, Ben. Superb. So who was on the decent score? Who was on the 5 out of 5 earlier? Forgotten who you were, my friend. I've forgotten. Regardless. Greg is saying it is difficult. Well, Greg, I have to tell you that we have a very knowledgeable crowd, and it is really impressive how many 10 out of 10s we actually get and how many really strong scores we get. But perhaps tonight you're right. I think it might be a wee bit tricky. What's question 10 like? It's tricky. Sorry, guys. Okay, blend question. Which of these famous Scotch blends don't make the world's top 10? One of these three don't actually even feature in the top 10 Scotch whiskies. Is it A, Bell's? Is it B, Famous Grouse? Or C, William Peel? A, Bell's, B, the Famous Grouse, or C, William Peel? Steve is saying he missed the last one. He was at 5 out of 5. Ah, okay, Steve. So you're now down at 8 out of 9, are you? I guess we're going to work out now if you're going to manage a 9 out of 10. Fantastic. So everybody's coming through now. Everybody's pouring in and answering C. William Peel. Scotch Comic is saying, what do you think of Grant's Blended Scotch? I had a Grant's Blended Scotch, actually, coincidentally, very recently, and I've got a bottle downstairs. I've got an early 1980s or late 70s Grant's Blend. It's fantastic, really good for a blended Scotch. The Grant's one that I had more recently was a wee bit rough around the edges, just the standard Grant's. I'm going to tell you that the answer I'm looking for the 10th question is, in fact, A. Surprisingly, it's A for Bell. Sid Martin with a guess for A got it right, guessing A. Sam England got it right. Yuka Mun got it right. Stevie is saying, what are the options again? Sorry, Steve. A for Bell's, B for the Famous Grouse, and C for William Peel. The Famous Grouse and William Peel, I think, are the 7th and 8th most popular Scotch whiskies, but Bell's, one of the biggest selling in the UK, doesn't feature in the global top 10. So there you go. How have we done with the scoring tonight? 156 of you still in. Thank you so much for staying till the end. Thank you so much for hanging around, and thank you for participating in the quiz. Thank you as well to everyone for your very generous virtual drams that you've sent across. There will be a live stream next week. I will make up for the fact that I've been 3 weeks without doing one. So there'll be 2 on the bounce, and I'll see you all at the same time next week as I jump in and see who scored the best. Steve A, 9 out of 10, by far my best. And I think, Steve, that you're the best tonight as well. Remember, any of you are close to the southeast of England, the London Whisky Club has space in its meeting on the 24th, which is Wednesday coming. They've got a really cool theme of whiskies of 10 years and younger for Wednesday night. So they're going to be featuring things, I believe, like the special releases Talisker 8, Lagavulin 8 or something. maybe those are just teasers, but I saw an image of that. So if you're interested in going along to meet up with folk, that club actually was founded in this very chat room. It's very cool. I'm really desperate to go down and join them for one of their sessions. But send an email to londonwhiskeyclub@gmail.com. Thanks to everyone for participating tonight. Thanks for all your support as always. And I really do look forward to meeting you a week from tonight. I'll come up with a theme over the next few days and share it with you on YouTube. Thank you all very much for your virtual drams. I'll raise this glass of a thrusk from my friend Richard and thank him once again for his kind samples and blind challenge. And I'll see you all next week. Have a wonderful, happy, healthy, and hopefully dram-filled Easter. Sláinte, folks.